Thanks everybody for joining, take a little time out of your busy fourth quarter. We appreciate it very much. My name's Terry Lapointe. I'm gonna jump to that next slide. So I manage the unified communications, cloud, carrier services here at Loeffler. Basically that means anything that has to do with internet circuits, SD-WAN, anything carrier related, anything cloud related, all kind of rolls through John and I through the organization. So we are here to help. If anybody needs any questions, anything at all, we've got John on the chat today. I'll be doing a lot of the talking. If you have Q&A or chat or anything, fire it up. Hopefully John can just fire you an answer in real time. If not, we'll do a little wrap up at the end to clean up any other Q&A. As you can see, over the last about 20 years or so, I've worked for Qwest, Comcast, ShoreTel, Mitel 8x8. So worked in the carrier space, worked in the cloud space, and in on-premise equipment space. So a lot of background in what we're talking about today. Hopefully that helps you guys in the future to find your next solution. And John, the guy with the Loeffler shirt, he 20 plus years in this business. He has been a high-level engineer in this space. He's been an escalations engineer. He's installed thousands of phone systems. Lots of phone systems. Here at Loeffler over the last 15 years, he's been just absolutely fantastic in helping the sales and technical teams. So he does a lot of pre-sales engineering for us. He does, he leads the department, or well, he leads the, what's the word I'm looking for? The service team, right? So he's one of the service team leads, phenomenal resource for anything we need for both on-premise or cloud-based solutions. So with that, the agenda today is what we saw on the registration page. We're going to look at what is a truly unified communications platform. And then we're going to talk about that unified communications platform, what that architecture and design looks like compared to an on-site system or an on-premise based system. A lot of folks are concerned with cloud when it comes to compliance and security, so we're going to cover that. And then, talking about employee and customer experience, I think is important, especially in the times that we're in, where you've got employees potentially scattered all over the place. They need to be able to do their jobs from wherever they're sitting, so we can really enhance that experience for those employees. And then on the customer side, how do they reach you in this world where nobody's at the office? So we're going to talk about that a little bit. And then I'm really a big fan of this next one with the innovative technology and automatic updates, because both John and I have stayed up overnight to upgrade phone systems. We've both worked through weekends to upgrade phone systems. And in the cloud-based world, it's very, very different in how that works for you. So I'm excited to talk about that. And then disaster recovery. What happens when a COVID happens? Everybody needs to disperse, go home, work from wherever they are. What happens if you have a catastrophic event at your building? We're going to talk about all that and how that works in the cloud versus the on-site systems as well. And then we're going to take a quick look because a lot of people's thought process and belief in their on-site systems is, hey, I've bought it. I own it. It's already depreciated, so it's free. So why would I go to a cloud-based model where I'm paying every month over and over and over again, and that expense never goes away? I'll explain how that works here in just a little bit. But first, let's start off with the truly unified communications platform. What does that mean? What's all included? Part of the title of the webinar is it's more than just a phone system, and that's absolutely true. So when we're looking at truly unified, we're bringing in your voice services. So that's not just picking up and making a phone call. That means you have unlimited long distance calling, unlimited local calling. That's anywhere in the US. So if you are a business that has tons of long distance, you're paying a bunch of money, cloud could save you money just on that factor alone, right? Long distance still isn't free. It's anywhere from 2 to 5 cents a minute, depending on your quantities and how much you're calling and where you're calling. In-state costs more than out-state, that kind of thing. We're going to include transcribed voicemails, instant messaging, collaboration, all the things you see on the screen. So meeting and presence, that goes back to what I mentioned about the employee experience. If I'm sitting at home, I'd love the fact that I can just look at my screen and I can see that John's on the phone, wherever he's at. I can see that Alex is out of the office or he's busy. Having that real-time presence and communication. And then we have a lot of folks, you've got meetings and audio web conferencing in there. A lot of folks didn't know what to do when they got sent home, and you've got a premise-based solution, and you've got to say, oh, wow, if we want to be able to do audio web video conferencing, we either have to add servers with licensing, then we've got to potentially add VPN, all these different things, or we've got to go to a Zoom type solution, WebEx, GoToMeeting, et cetera. Again, adding some additional monthly costs, adding an additional product and complexity in a truly unified communications platform. All of those things are just built in out of the box. So the mobile applications are fantastic on these solutions. So whether you're working from an iPad, an Android tablet, an iOS phone, an Android phone, you can literally work wherever, whenever, and however you want to from nearly any device. It's fantastic. And then fax, yes, people still fax, believe it or not. I rarely go through a presentation or a demo with a customer that doesn't have some faxing in their solution today. So, excuse me. And then when it comes to reporting, analytics, call reporting, all these things built in right out of the box. So, John's heard me say it. All the sales reps at Loeffler are tired of hearing me saying it, but you'll hear me say all the time, it's like Prego, it's in the sauce. Everything's in there. You don't have to ever buy extra stuff to get feature functionality. So that's what I mean when I say truly unified communications. And so the reason I've got Dr. Evil saying, is that all you've got? No, there's more. We can even take this stuff without VPN. We don't need old school MPLS networks. We've got customers out there that have global MPLS networks with the sole purpose of running their voice applications on it. All of that complexity and all of that cost can be eliminated because in the cloud space, your user is basically going to authenticate to the closest data center, and that's going to provide them with the best possible service without complexity of the VPNs and extra networking. It's literally plug and play. And we're doing it all in one application, one desktop app, right? So again, going back to our current COVID situation, everybody gets dispersed and sent home. So now you've gone out and you've said, well, we need Zoom, or hey, maybe we're using Teams for this, and then we've got our phone system for this. We've got to buy some more licensing, and it adds all this complexity, and you have multiple tools. We're bringing that all in so you have a single tool set, one pane of glass to be able to do everything you saw on the previous slide. So we even have vendors in the portfolio where you can roll the contact center right into the same application, which is fantastic. So, and remember, any questions, throw them in the comments. John's ready. He looks like he hasn't answered any yet. I haven't seen him typing.
I haven't seen any coming yet.
Keep John busy. We got to, he's too talented to just leave sitting there with no questions. So throw them at him.
I'll throw one at you. How long does it take to add something that you want to add? Some new feature, new users.
So new features, that's a good one. So new features, and I'll answer the users as well. So new features in the cloud, I've got a slide on that, so I don't want to get too far ahead, but basically they're developing on rapid scales, right? So about every 3 to 6 weeks, you're probably going to have a system update of some kind, and that system update is going to give you new features, new functions, improved something, right? It's fantastic. And then how long does it take to add a user to a cloud solution? Literally minutes, right? So some cloud providers are going to allow you to log in and do this on your own. Some you're going to have your partner log in and do these for you. And some you might just enter a ticket because it's not urgent and say, hey, we need this user, we need a DID. Here's what we want them to be able to do or not do. Send it into the provider. And typically within a day, you've got a new user added to your solution. So you don't have to go buy a license. You don't have to worry about, does your hardware or software or servers have the right capacity? You just dial it up. So great question. Works the same way if you're adding a new site to a cloud solution. You can have a site turned up in a matter of a day with all the users. Awesome. Thanks for that, John. So next we're going to talk about some architecture. John and I both being old networky phone geeks, this is what we get excited about. So hopefully everyone can stay awake for the next 5 or 10 minutes while we talk about architecture. But This one, this is a fresh off the interweb. I stole this from one of the vendors just yesterday, so I know it's clean and fresh, so we're not using old stuff. This is just kind of an example of an on-site architecture in today's world. So you're going to have your call control over here. You've got a server for instant messaging and presence. You might have a collaboration server, or you might be using a Zoom or WebEx or GoToMeeting product over here. Then you've got your UC application server, all these different things. Now, this is for a bigger environment. Obviously, in a more of a SMB environment, they put a lot of these into maybe a virtual machine. In our world with Mitel, you're going to have a primary server, and then you're going to add different boxes for the amount of capacity that you need, for the dial tone that you need, etc. And then down here, if you've got the multi-site, if you're on the old on-site architecture, you probably have an MPLS, as I mentioned before, to support that. So you've got older technology there that comes usually at a higher cost per meg for bandwidth than you would get if you went with redundant internet pipes and SD-WAN or something like that. Then, of course, you need that box to terminate your PRI. You need that box to terminate your analog lines. Somehow you've got to terminate that copper. So you've got all these different boxes that are on site that you have to maintain and manage and support. So even though they're paid for, at some point you're going to have hardware refreshes. You're going to have end-of-life operating systems like Server 2008 to 2012, etc. So you're going to have that. You're going to have to migrate up. And when you do, you're going to call John or I, or you guys are going to sit up all night or all weekend to get that done. So that's going to change a little bit when we show you the cloud architecture. So here's another example of an on-site architecture. Same company, but this is where they have virtualized everything to keep it into one box. So you're going to have this one server, and that's going to have that UC, that voicemail, UC applications, etc. Still on site, still behind the firewall, still in the VM. And if you want to have redundancy, you're going to have to buy 2 of these servers and basically replicate. And you can do that on one site, which isn't a very good DR story, by the way. Or you could put these on multiple sites, and then you're going to have to provide the connectivity to make sure that those sites are always up so that those servers can replicate and keep you in business, right? So keeping in mind, as we move ahead, all of this gear is in your rack. It's in your building. It's for you to maintain, support, and upgrade, right? And one of the things that we like to talk about with that is operating systems. With on-site servers, you have the potential, John and I know this from our Mitel world again and NEC world, where you have to turn off automatic updates on those servers because the manufacturer, they may not have blessed that latest Microsoft patch for their server operating system to work with the phone system software. Well, what happens then if Microsoft pushes out a critical security patch that your phone system company hasn't, or vendor hasn't blessed yet? You've kind of got a conundrum there. You want to upgrade the server and patch it, but that might break something on your phone system. Those are all the types of things that we just kind of remove when we move to this architecture. And this one's really complicated and big and broad. This is what's going on in the cloud behind the scenes. So we've got active geo-redundant data centers, East Coast, West Coast. Your data is stored in geo-redundant data centers around the country and around the world. Everything you have in here has multiple carriers, multiple tunnels, multiple paths to get to everything. So this is super complex, and it's super redundant, and it does literally everything you need your phone system to do. But here's the difference. Here's what you have on site. This is the total of your on-premise equipment in a cloud type world. So you have all of this awesome stuff going on in the background. You have even more reliability and redundancy than you have in this scenario, because you do have multiple carriers, session border controllers, multiple call controllers, multiple data storage. Everything's replicated over and over and over again. But on your prem, this is what you have. That's pretty awesome, right? You're not worrying about any of that equipment anymore. You're worrying about a phone. And you have a simple monthly operating expense that's predictable. So you know every month what you're going to pay. You know how much the system is going to cost over time, and you get a phone. Now, you do have another option. That's this one, okay? So you could use a soft phone on your laptop. You could just use your mobile phone. Like I said, the modern day mobile apps are absolutely fantastic. You could use the desk phone. And this goes back to my previous statement of you can work wherever, whenever, however you want from literally whatever device you have. And this actually plays well into the DR conversation that we're going to have in a little bit as well. So work from the laptop, work from the phone. We've got this fancy headset in the middle that's actually connected to both. That's kind of cool. You could flip back and forth between devices or just use the app on the mobile. The great thing about this is that you can make calls from that mobile device and it's coming from your work phone number. You can do text messaging. You can send SMS text messages to people. It's coming from that work phone number. You never have to give out your private or personal information, even if you're using your private and personal cell phone. So it's truly bring your own device solution when you move into the cloud space. So with that, I'm going to take a quick pause. Any questions on the board, John?
I have had one. I'm in the middle of a second. Yep. So
all right.
a couple
so
coming in.
Nothing for you? All right, cool.
Nothing for you yet.
All right, so now we're going to go back and we're going to talk a little bit more about the big picture of that architecture. And this kind of gets me all geeky and excited, but it may not be for everybody. But this kind of shows you just what's going on in that cloud solution. You have got multiple tier 1 carriers coming into multiple locations, into multiple redundant server sets that are then replicated on each side of the country, right? So when you talk about reliability and uptime, basically all of the vendors in our cloud-based portfolio for voice have 5 nines of reliability in their service level agreement. So that's 99.999% uptime, which amounts to somewhere in the 4 to 5 minute per 12-month rolling average category. So there's only one that doesn't do that. We're not going to pick on them or name names just yet unless somebody asks, but the majority of our environments look just like this. Server clusters, voicemail clusters, data storage clusters, all replicated with multiple tier 1 carrier environment. So then once we get into the data center, this is going to give you, again, a completely redundant, remember this one's confidential, so don't be screenshotting everybody. So completely redundant server setup, SIP setup, network setup, session border setup. So this is what's going on inside each of those data centers. So whether you're a 2-seat small business or you're a 20,000 seat big business, it would cost you a tremendous amount of money to build this level of reliability and redundancy into your phone system because you have to replicate so many things to get it done. In the cloud, it's just done for you, again, for that predictable operating expense every month. And we're going to, again, don't leave us. We're going to talk about that cost difference here in a few minutes. And then with that, going back to that cloud diagram again, this is all you need, whether you're on site, everybody goes back to work maybe next year, we'll see. Whether you're at home, whether you're on the road, you can use that mobile device, desktop phone, desktop application on the software, anywhere you want to work, however you want to work, and it's easy. That's the key point. It's very, very easy to do. You tell us, hey, I've got a cabin down in Florida. I need a phone there. No problem. In the cloud, we can have up to 5 different physical phones on one extension that can all work in concert together. So you can make it take a call from Florida, fly up, make it take a call from your home office, make it take a call from your business office here in Minneapolis or wherever that may be. And you don't have to do the hot desking or hoteling or do any of that on the phone. They just all work at the same time. It's pretty nice. All right. So now let's talk about compliance and security. This is a hot topic. We, Loeffler, as a security firm, are finding there's a lot of hacking, there's a lot of breaches, there's a lot of stuff going on that's not in the news. A lot of our customer base sits in this, 1 user to 5,000 user world. Those companies that get hacked and get attacked don't make the news, but it's happening a lot. I believe yesterday I was in a meeting. They said 80% of all the hacking and bad deeds going on are in that SMB space because they're not usually as defended as well as the big guys. They just don't make the news, like I said. So with this, our cloud solutions are HIPAA compliant, Gramm-Leach-Bliley, Sarbanes-Oxley, GDPR, PCI. and many, many more. I just didn't want to, get the screen too messy, but everything is locked down and certified and compliant with all of these, right? So the great thing about that is that your data, let me jump to this one, is actually, and this is a really busy slide. I'm usually not an 8 bullet point guy, I apologize, but the point I wanted to make is that everything's encrypted, whether it's in transit, whether it's at rest. We use things like secure WebRTC. We have 256 encryption for all your sensitive data moving back and forth. So no matter where you are, and we also have multi-level, multi-factor authentication, everything, no matter where you're working from, when you log into that endpoint, whether it's this endpoint, whether it's this physical phone endpoint, no matter how you're logging in, that's going to create that secure tunnel back to the data center before it starts to talk. So that all of your data is secure, and you don't have to be the one to worry about that anymore. You don't have to worry about setting up your VPN tunnels for all those remote workers to be able to dial back into that HQ, and then you handle all the security on that data. And then what happens if you get hacked or something happens in your environment? Is there sensitive data in there that could be let out? All of that is now taken off your plate. All of that is put into these data centers and these cloud providers' labs. So that's kind of a nice piece too. All right. So next up, this is fun. Improved customer and employee experience. So when you're talking about your internal customer, your employees, I mentioned this at the beginning, right? We're able to use the cloud to say, hey, you can work from home. You have all the tools available. You can instant message folks. You can see if they're available, if they're not available. You can see who's on vacation. All of that is done in real time, right? So it also helps eliminate, I'm a huge fan of eliminating email. I get a couple hundred email a day. I love the fact that I can reduce that by using instant messaging, and I can get my questions answered right now. And I think folks at Loeffler would tell you too, if somebody sends me an instant message with a quick question, they're usually going to get a response darn near instantly. Whereas if it comes in an email and it's getting flushed in with this email launch that I have coming in of emails every day, I may not see it right away. I may get to it at night when I'm catching up on emails, watching some TV. I may get to it the next day. So you have that improved employee experience, even though people are spread out, working from home, working from the coffee shop, working from wherever they can go work. That's not in that building where they're not allowed to go right now. So I love the tools. I have the ability, if I'm chatting on the phone with John and I say, hey, let's talk face to face, click a button and we've got a video interaction. Says, hey, I don't understand what you're talking about. Let's go through this document together. One click and we're sharing documents. And again, on the prem world, all these things are possible. Absolutely. On an on-site system, you can make that happen. It just typically takes more hardware, more licensing, maybe more bandwidth, more dial tone. Those types of things all have to be thought of when you're doing that expansion. In this world, like Prego, it's in the sauce, it's all in there, right? So team collaborative messaging is another great thing for remote employees, right? So you can build these groups, everybody can chat no matter where they are in the state, where they are in the country, and you really can help get stuff done, right? Hey, who's handling this? Who's handling that? In a 2-minute instant message conversation with the team collaborating, we can do what we would have accomplished in 35 emails that had reply all, 80% of which didn't apply to 80% of the people on the email thread. So it really helps to cut down on the reply all traffic. And then the company directory, this is kind of an interesting thing because as you add a user, they're instantly available and you can instantly see their status. You have the company directory on the phone. So I can come in here, find who I need, dial them on the phone. Company directory is always up to date on my cell phone. No matter where I'm at, I can reach anybody. And that really, really helps because it keeps you connected with the office, even when you're not there. So for your customers, so cloud-based solutions, almost every provider that we offer has some sort of IVR. So you can get the call to the right person at the right time. We have different cloud-based contact centers. So if you wanted to upgrade a little bit, move to skills-based routing, you can do priority queuing. So if somebody calls in and they're a high-value customer to your business, maybe they route to somebody right away, and somebody who's not doing a lot of business with you can route maybe to somebody, or they can wait, while you're talking with that higher value customer to you. So We can do all that. We definitely have the ability to get calls to people quicker, easier, faster, because it doesn't matter where they're sitting. We have presence, right? So if I'm talking to Murphy and Murphy says, hey, I want to talk to Alex, I can look down at my screen and say, well, Alex is currently on the phone. So do you want to leave him a message? Do you want to hold? Do you want me to shoot him an instant message and say, hey, I've got John on the phone. Can you take the call? All about getting that instant interaction instead of having that customer wait on hold or have that customer bounced around the organization because I just flat out transferred it to John, went to John's voicemail. Customer's like, well, I need somebody now. They hit 0 to go to the operator, and that whole cycle starts again. In this environment, because you have that real-time presence, you know who's on the phone, who's not on the phone. Everything is very simple to say, yep, Alex is available. His light is green. He's by his phone. Tell you what, I'll even do an announced transfer. I'll call Alex, say, hey, are you available right now? He says, you bet. Then I send the call. So that's really stuff that helps that customer experience. Same with being able to do that IVR and the routing, because I can get to the group of people or to the person that I need quickly, easily, and without the frustration of hang up and redial and this and that, right? So even if you've got 30 sites spread all over the country, I know that if I've got somebody that can help this customer in there in Dallas, I can get them to that person, because the person on the other end doesn't care where they're sitting. They just need help. So we can now get rid of all the borders, get rid of all the geography, and get people help immediately, because the cloud solution allows us to just see who's there and get them to the right person. So last but not least on this piece, I use this example for sales or customer service. So in this environment, in this cloud environment, it's very, very easy if I am, say, a bank, and I have got multiple branches, and somebody calls and they just need to know about a mortgage, but they called their local branch. Well, you can actually take that call and have it ring mortgage brokers in all of your branches to make sure that this person gets help. It doesn't have to be the one in that seat. So any mortgage broker anywhere can pick that call up, help that customer, walk them through, get them what they need, and you've enhanced that customer experience versus them going into some sort of voicemail. So very nice. Also helps disperse calls for sales reps. Any questions in the queue, John, or you got it?
I got it.
All right, great. Thank you for that. All right, so new innovative technology. I love this. I touched on it a little bit already, but we're just going to have one quick slide, because one of the things that you like about this, or that I like about this, is that the software is always up to date. You always have the latest and greatest tech, and you don't have to do, like I mentioned at the beginning, like John and I have done many, many, many times in our careers, spent that overnight to get a system upgraded. Hey, maybe the port doesn't go through, so you're waiting on the phone with AT&T all night long. Sorry, I'm having flashbacks. Or spending an entire weekend updating a system, or spending literally months to plan a migration from software A to software B. We're going through that with a customer right now, right? So it's this huge process of figuring out, because they're a larger customer, how we're going to get from A to B. In the cloud, because you don't have to worry about the servers in the background or any of the hardware or any of the capacities. You don't have to worry about putting any kind of capacity in your VMware farms, any of that. None of that exists. Your upgrade process in the cloud is as simple as, I've got a notification right here that says, hey, you want to update your software? I say, sure. So it does the install. It actually does it silently in the background. And then when it's done, I get another pop-up that says, hey, do you want to restart your software? I say, yeah, let's restart the software. I'm not on the phone. I'm not doing anything. And it's literally back up in less than 20 seconds. Most of the time, I haven't seen it take longer than that. But about 20 seconds or so, that software is back up. And what's really nice is it'll actually give you a pop-up on the screen that says, hey, here's all the stuff that we've improved in this software update. Here's the new tools. Here's the new toys. Here's what's been fixed, all of these different things. And then you just kind of walk through and go, oh, that's cool. So you kind of get instant training. So all the features, so you already know how to use the software. Now it teaches you how to do the new stuff as well, right there in real time. So really, really nice. It's really, really easy. And they come frequently. So, oh, and by the way, you don't need to have admin rights to make these updates happen in most of the providers that we have, almost all of them. There's no admin rights. You click it, it upgrades, you're good to go, and you don't have to give up admin rights for that PC or Mac. So updates are a click away. They're really, really easy. No more overnights, no more weekends. Makes John and I's life so, I mean, we both, well, I've lost all my hair before we got to this point, but John stopped going gray because of this. You know, we got the cloud.
It helped a lot.
So I'm a big, big fan of that. Server patches, all that stuff we already talked about. I love the fact that I am always on the latest, greatest software. So when you're talking again about total cost of ownership, right? You're not worried about hardware refreshes every 5 years. You're not worried about software. You're not worried about, hey, you know, Windows Server 12 is going out end of life. I've got to move to 16. All of that burden is off your shoulders. It's one click and you've got the latest and greatest software. All right. So disaster recovery. So this is a pretty hot topic in the world that we're in right now, right? So what happens when everybody has to go home? Or what happens if you have a catastrophic event at a building? It's on fire or something happens, gas leak, whatever, and you've got to get people out of the building, but you still need to be productive. You still need to work. All right. So with the cloud, you literally just add internet. So because this device right here is always online, if somebody calls my direct dial number, it's going to ring that app. Even if my building is completely unavailable, all my calls still route to this. I still have instant messaging, team collaborative messaging, audio web video meetings, everything is right here in the palm of my hand. Again, just add internet. So with the mobile tools that you have, you can work from a laptop. More often than not, I just use the hotspot on my phone for my laptop, and I'm in business. Whether I'm at an airport or well, it used to be at airports, or if I'm out to dinner or wherever I'm at, I have full access to do my entire job right there from the palm of my hand, as long as I've got an internet connection. So if you're in your building, everybody's back to work, let's say June 21, everybody's back in their office, maybe, we'll see, or a few people. Power goes out, it's down. Well, a lot of folks working on laptops, there's a battery on that, get some Wi-Fi from the next building over or from your phone, you're still working. You're still making calls, you're collaborating, you're video conferencing, you're doing everything you need to do. excuse me, everything you need to do. Again, all those tools, palm of your hand. You can, even if you want to, get nerdy like me, take your phone, unplug it, go home, plug it into a network cable at home, and now you can even have your desk phone at home. Plug and play. No additional configuration or work required like you would have on an on-site system to VPN back in. John, I see you came off mute.
Yeah, I was going to throw a question at you there. What if you don't have Ethernet cable at home? You don't have the cabling in place?
Sure. Well, then that option's off the table. So then you're going to go ahead and use your laptop, your iPad, your Android tablet, your cell phone. If you really wanted to, if the company wanted to provide them, we actually do even make a Wi-Fi adapter to put in the back of the phone.
That's where I was going. Yep.
I know. So, but that's less common, but it is definitely doable. If you do need Wi-Fi, Yealink actually has some really nice new phones that have Wi-Fi built into them, right? So that's always an option as well. So there are so many different ways in the cloud for you to avoid any sort of disaster recovery scenario, because you literally, and I know you've heard me say it already, you can work anywhere from any device. Right? So heck, the building goes away, you can go work on the beach in Florida. I know a lot of people that are doing it, right? So very, very nice. Now, the next one's a hot topic, minimizing capital expense. All right, but my phone system's paid for. Yes, it is. But what a lot of folks don't think about is all the ancillary costs that go along with that phone system once it is paid for. So let's cover some of that. So, sorry, I had to with the guy and the money, but so my phone system is paid for, but something still has to connect to it in order for you to have dial tone. So you're going to pay for PRIs, you're going to pay for SIP, you're going to pay for analog lines. In that example I had of a larger customer, maybe you're paying for a big global MPLS network that's very, very expensive, that is no longer needed in the cloud. You have annual maintenance contracts, software assurance contracts. And again, a lot of people that had on-site systems, why do you think Zoom stock zoomed like it did? Everybody went out and jumped on Zoom, or they jumped on WebEx or GoToMeeting, one of those solutions to be able to have meetings and do what we're talking about. But again, very expensive to do on your premise-based system. So everybody already made a little bit of a jump into cloud with the online meeting software. And then I've talked about hardware replacement costs. Everything at some point is going to go end of life. John and I are both fortunate enough. We worked with the old ShoreTel / Mitel product for years. Those are a physical appliance. They're solid state. They do last a really long time. But when it is time to go end of life and they are needed to be replaced, there's a pretty good expense involved in replacing those at $3,000 or $4,000 a box. Right? So you've got that ongoing hardware replacement cost, refreshes every few years. And then of course, I've beat on this one quite a bit on this call, the upgrade process, because, like I said, John and I still have nightmares about evenings and weekends doing upgrades. I don't know of a vendor that will come out and do after hours upgrades, weekends and evenings for free. So if you do need to do that upgrade, you can't afford to be down during the day, there's going to be some cost to that. Is that once a year, twice a year, every couple of years? I don't know. Maybe you haven't touched your phone system in 20 years. You're still paying for all the bullets above upgrades. But if you are keeping it up to date, you add that upgrade cost as well. All right. So then in addition to those that are more pronounced, those are the obvious ones. A lot of folks, they think about the power and cooling, the rack space that's involved in taking that premise-based system. Any kind of break fix labor, somebody, you've got to pour it out, you've got to switch out, someone's got to drive out and fix it. Depending on your maintenance contract, you may or may not have to pay for someone to roll that truck to come out and fix it. How often does that happen? Depends on your business. Some folks it happens monthly, some folks it's annually, some folks, hey, that thing's been on the wall and it's been working for 15 years and it's phenomenal, it's a workhorse. Great, that's fantastic. Go back to the previous slide, you're still paying for PRIs and all these other things. eFax, right? Or analog lines to support fax. So that's still common in almost every conversation that we have. So you've got that fax service, eFax service. Somewhere there's a cost for faxing, right? It might be the fax machine itself. How often do you refresh it? Then you talk about the redundancy. We talked about our disaster recovery in the cloud. There really isn't any. It's just you're always on. So if you're on a premise-based system, what's the cost to do that, right? So you've now experienced the COVID. You realized, wow, our phone system just wasn't ready for that. To make it ready for that, how much is that going to cost in additional licensing, redundant hardware, additional lines to go into the redundant hardware, all those things. And then of course, cost and complexity of adding those additional services. That's what we've been talking about. That, hey, I want to do a conference bridge. Okay, let's talk for a second about what it takes to add that conferencing solution to your on-premise based solution. You have to add that conferencing server, then you have to add the licensing for it. Then there's going to increase your maintenance costs because you've added to your system. And then the other piece of that puzzle that a lot of folks don't think about is if you're going to be having meetings with 15 or 20 or 30 people dialing into a bridge, you're responsible for that dial tone because that server is on site. So now you need to add capacity to be able to handle more PRIs, more analog lines, just more SIP trunks. Whatever your dial tone is, you have to add capacity for that. So again, tremendous amount of complexity that's going into this. In the cloud space, basically everything's unlimited calling, unlimited long distance. You have huge conference bridges that will support 100 people on audio, web, and video. That can grow bigger if you need it to. But again, it's all just in there for you. So let's show some real numbers. I talked to John. John gave me some actual numbers for maintenance contracts and software assurance costs on a 40-site customer. We've got a lot of 40 user customers. We got a lot of those. So we pulled a bunch of them, kind of put an average together. And so this is a pretty real scenario right here. Cloud subscription cost for those 40 seats, about $960. All the other costs, they're gone. So on this side, on the on-site, you got about, in these range, right? Between $350 and $450, depending on when you got your PRI, what your contract is and all that kind of stuff. So we kind of took an average, about $400 I figured we'd probably have a few analog lines in there. They range at $35 or $40 per line. That could be for your faxes, backup POTS lines for if your PRI or SIP trunking goes away. Most of the customers that we're talking to have at least 3 or 4, maybe 5 or 6 analog lines. And then when you add in that maintenance contract, the software assurance, and then for that company that says, all right, we want to do 20 Zoom accounts. That's what I put in here. So not everybody in this 40 user environment, because I wanted to keep it fair. Half the organization's got a paid Zoom account because they need them for sales or service or whatever they're doing. So we come out at about $1,110 a month for that phone system that is paid for. On the cloud side, we come out at $960. And the reality of this is even if I took the Zoom accounts out and maybe it's about $100 less than the cloud, you're still getting all that disaster recovery, all the ability to work from everywhere, all your tools, all in one application, and the instant messaging, the SMS messaging, and probably a lot of features that you don't have on this side. So what you have to determine is, are those features something that'll benefit my business? I don't know. That's where John and I and having a good consultative conversation come into play, is to really help understand your business and find the best fit. All right, so here's an example. 100 users, going a little bigger, 3 sites. So what we did here, I put the same monthly cost per seat, no discount for the quantity. I just threw it in there. And then over here, I've got a PRI at the 2 larger sites. And then down here, we've just added a few extra POTS lines because maybe that's a smaller 3rd location. We looked up some of our 100 seat customers that we have here at Loeffler. We kind of averaged out their maintenance contract, software assurance. Again, we put about half the organization on Zoom. And if you tally these 3 numbers up, they come out to about $2,650. So even at 100 seats with 3 locations, actually the more locations that a company has with the more dial tone they have at each of those locations, the better these numbers actually look. So you could have a very large organization with a lot of sites, but you're bringing in dial tone to each one of those. Boy, does that eat up the cost of cloud in a hurry. So especially if you're adding MPLS to that conversation. So in this example, about 100 users, multiple sites, same kind of dynamic. And keep in mind, I'm only showing the really obvious cost of doing business here. If you come back over to slide 29, there's a lot of other things to consider. Again, software upgrades, hardware upgrades. I'm not taking any of that into account whatsoever. This is just the easy stuff on the surface. And almost all the time, we can make a financial case to go to the cloud because your upfront cost is basically just going to be implementation, training, project management, just to get your system going. In the grand scheme of things, it's pretty darn minimal. Depending on which cloud provider is the best fit for your business, some of them will roll those, excuse me, matter of fact, let's bounce this one. Some of those will actually roll the phone cost right into the monthly subscription. Some of the providers that we have in our portfolio, they actually include the phones in the monthly subscription. So there is no hardware cost whatsoever. It just depends on what's, again, best for your business, because some businesses right now are saying, yeah, we don't even need physical phones anymore. We're going to do everything on software. That's kind of where the business is going. Hey, that's great. We have providers that'll go whichever way you want to go. So you're gonna get rid of a huge upfront cost, right? So assuming you're going with a new on-site phone system, and you're 100 users, that's probably going to be a $70,000 bill. So that can go away. And then your monthly expenses are probably going to be very similar. If you do have that old phone system that's paid for, it's very possible that we can dig in and we'll see that your monthly expenses are going to be very similar. But in the cloud, again, you have a predictable, repeatable operating cost. You know that this is what a seat costs with taxes and fees. Here's my total monthly cost to add this employee from a communications perspective. So if you're looking at just collaboration communications as part of that cost of hiring that new person, you know exactly what that is. You don't have to call John or I to get a quote for another seat. You don't have to worry about if there's ports available on your phone system, if there's capacity. None of that matters anymore. We can scale one phone system from 1 seat to 100,000 seats, and it's all the same stuff. So that cost of entry is extremely low. Depending on your situation, the monthly expense may be, very similar. And that is why I want to have this conversation with people because, again, not to beat a dead horse, but a lot of people that have that mentality of it's paid for, man, I can't go to the cloud because holy cow, that's going to cost 10 times more over the next 10 years. Well, not when you look at all the other things that go along with your on-site system. And we can help figure that out. And the reason we can help figure that out, Loeffler is a true consulting partner in the cloud. This is my favorite thing about this whole cloud thing, if you will, is when John and I are at Loeffler and we're selling a phone system, we really want you to buy an NEC or a Mitel, right? Because those are the brands that we resell. And if you say, hey, we really love Avaya, well, we don't have an answer for you there. However, in the cloud space, we literally have access to everybody. We run with 2 master agents. That means that those 2 master agents can provide us access to literally any cloud solution, any carrier, anything in the country that you want to look at. And between John and I's 45 or so years of experience in this game, I started off as a network geek, but that was a long, long time ago. In the voice game alone, I've been doing it about 17. John's over 22. Let us use our 40 years of experience to help you navigate through which one of these is the best choice for you, or maybe it's one that's not on the screen. Again, Nextiva, you name it, they're all available. And what we really get to do is sit down with you and truly consult, find out what your business needs are, find out what your customers' needs are, not just today, but today, 5 years from today, and down the road. Because maybe you're planning on, rolling out a huge contact center in the next 5 years. Well, then we want to make sure that we put the right partner in place, the right provider in place that can grow with you into that contact center as clean and easily as possible. So again, this is my favorite part of the cloud environment, is the fact that we literally can just sit down with you, understand what you need, understand where you're at today, and help you narrow it down to maybe 3 providers that check every box. Once we get down to 3 providers that check every box, that will do everything your business needs, then we're going to bring them in and let them demo and show their product and show you what they can do, so that we can help you then just kind of narrow that field down to, hey, this is a great fit for your business. You're going to feel good about what you've bought instead of going, well, gee, maybe I should have gone with this one or that one. By the time we're done, we want to make sure that you're feeling really good about, hey, we made a fantastic 8x8 choice, or we made a fantastic RingCentral or Loeffler Elevate, whatever the case may be. We want to make sure that it's the best fit for your business. And we don't have any skin in the game with any one of these providers to say, hey, we want to make sure we push this one over that one. It's truly all about you and helping you succeed and your business. So I think we've got just a few minutes left here to hit some questions if there are any. So I'm going to say thank you, slide, and go over to John. Say, hey, any questions on the board, John?
None remaining. Nope.
All right. Well, we'll give it a couple of minutes, folks. We got 23 people on there. If you've got questions, please fire them off at us. Let us know what you think. Even if you want to say, wow, that John Murphy's a handsome fella, I don't care. Throw it in the chat. Whatever works. So fire away. If you want to comment on John's Christmas tree.
Yeah, be careful. I'll let the wife know how that goes. She gets the credit there.
All right. Anything coming in?
Nope.
All right.
Nothing.
All right. Last call. Otherwise, we'll give everybody 5 minutes back in the day. Again, I truly appreciate everybody jumping on, taking an hour out of your busy Q4 schedules to spend the time with us and talk a little about the cloud. John and I, very passionate about this topic. Schedule a meeting, call us, call your sales rep from Loeffler, and let's just have a conversation about it and just kind of take what we've just done over the last 55 minutes and move it into a conversation that's more focused on your business.
Terry, I do have one that, are we going to send out the link for this recording later?
Well, we've got marketing on the call. I got a hunch that Alex is going to push this recording all over the interwebs and embarrass the heck out of me.
Yes, we will be sending this recording out. Have Jess do some editing, and we'll get that out to you guys.
So in the editing process, can Jess thin my face down a little? You said-
Yeah, we'll see what we can do. Throw some hair on there too. We'll
Yeah,
see.
please. Yeah. No mohawk, but give me something. All right. Any other questions before we depart?
We've got just I think looking for a rough estimate. If you were gonna try to ballpark a 4-user solution.
4-user solutions probably going to spitball and be around $100, give or take a few in the cloud. Those are the ones, to be honest, those are the quick and easy ones from us from a selling perspective, because most 4-phone solutions have at least 2 or 3, maybe even 4 analog lines to support them. And our cost per seat is actually well lower than the cost of an analog line. And you get way, way, way more out of it. So, matter of fact, I'll be honest with you, I actually use Elevate, our cloud solution at Loeffler, in my home. So if somebody calls my house, I actually answer the phone call on this iPad. And at the same time, it rings both my daughter's and my wife's phone. Anybody can get the call. And we have a centralized transcribed voicemail. And for all of our medical stuff that we do, we now use our home phone number and say, yeah, text us at this number. So if we get an appointment reminder from wherever we're getting it done, it'll actually text our home number, and all 4 of us will get that text on our mobile device. So it's phenomenal for those really small businesses like that. Absolutely perfect fit. Those usually have about a 2-day sales process, to be perfectly honest. Any others?
Nope. Think we've got them all.
All right, with 2.5 minutes to spare, again, sincerely from John and I and Alex and everybody at Loeffler, thank you so much for all your time today. We appreciate it so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a great one.